Good evening. And good evening, and welcome to the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO on the Civic Media app, and on the 98.9 WXCO YouTube channel. With BJ Brandt, I'm Chad Holmes, with you until 8 p.m. tonight. We'll be talking about what's going on in high school hockey and basketball. Plus, we'll have some special guests. We'll have our coach guest at 6:30, East-Merrill United Blue Jack hockey head coach Brian Bednarczyk. He'll be with us at the bottom of this hour. And then coming up, our student-athlete guest at 7:06, Wausau East Boys basketball senior Robbie and Julie. So that's all coming up here tonight on the Big High School Sports Show. Big cold front moving in, so we'll try to warm things up for the next 2 hours. BJ Brandt. We'll start with hockey. I know that we'll save your quiz on basketball for later in the show, but
it makes me at ease, Chad, when we start with that.
But let's start with the Wisconsin Valley Conference. We got Stevens Point at 4-0 in the conference, 12-2 overall. Wausau West 4-1 in the conference, 15-1 overall. Everest 3-3 in the league, 8-6 overall. Marshfield 2-3 in the conference, 4-8 overall. Rapids 1-3 in the league, 4-8 overall. East-Merrill United 1-5 in the conference, 4-9 overall. And I guess starting with the top two teams in the conference, you had Stevens Point in action on Thursday of last week in the conference. They stayed perfect, beating Marshfield 11-2. Grant Molsky and Max Middlestead 2 goals each. For Stevens Point, 43-8 edge in shots for the Panthers in that game. But probably for them, the big game was their non-conference game on Saturday night, as the Hudson Raiders came over. And we've talked so often about this sectional that has, for part of the season at least, had the top three teams in the state in it, with Stevens Point, Wausau West, and Hudson. And Hudson beat Stevens Point 3-2 on Saturday. Hudson jumped out to an early lead. Stevens Point came back and tied it, but for only 15 seconds before Hudson scored the game winner. What's your take on Steve? Actually, let me tell you about Wausau West and kind of put an umbrella on it here, because the Warriors had a good 3-day stretch on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, beating Wisconsin Rapids 9-0 on Thursday with Cooper DePoit and Owen Pergalski each with hat tricks. And then over the weekend, the Wausau West Hockey Invitational. On Friday night, Warriors shut out Middleton 8-0. DePoit 2 goals and 5 assists. And then on Saturday, won the championship game 11-2 over Notre Dame Academy. Don't see that very often. But the Warriors got 4 goals from Cooper DePoit. Owen Pergalski hat trick as well. The two teams at the top of the Wisconsin Valley Conference. I think West has to feel really good about those 3 games. And Stevens Point has to, I think, feel like they let one get away and really put themselves in a bit of a corner when it comes to sectional seeding.
Yeah, when you look at the sectional, it's going to be interesting to see how the seeds come out, depending on, obviously there's a big game coming up between West and Spash next week, Thursday. When the result of Hudson doesn't play Wausau West, so like you're only basically looking at Wausau West versus Spash twice and the one game versus Hudson that they played to try to figure out the seeding, because a lot of times coaches will go back to the conference standings. So then you got to look at the Big Rivers Conference, who's winning the conference, how have the conference games gone, that type of stuff, and then you're looking at the Wisconsin Valley. So there's a lot of there's not a ton of common opponents with Hudson. Above and beyond the other Big Rivers teams that they've already beaten, as well as the ones that Wausau West and Stevens Point have played. So it'll be interesting. It's a big game for seeding, I think, for both Spash and Wausau West next week, Thursday. Obviously, big game in the conference, because that can set one team up or the other to still clawing and fighting for the conference title. It'll be interesting, though. I mean, when you look at the Hudson Spash game, to think that not a single power play goal, 8 power plays in that game, and not a single power play goal. So with all that skill on the ice between those two teams, Will Maurer seemed to be one that stood out for Hudson. He had a shorthanded goal in the second period. And you look at, it was tied briefly for a little bit, and then Henry Coleman seemed like he broke out a little bit in that game to take it for Hudson. But I watched the last 2 minutes of that game, and when you think about where Spash was a year ago, rolling through the entire regular season undefeated, the difference is now they've been in different situations that they weren't in a year ago, and they've been able to practice them with pressure and prepare for them. So, I think you look at their overall record, and people are going to be like, well, they lost a couple of games after going undefeated a year ago. And,
right.
and if, as a coach, sometimes that's okay, and it's going to be just a massive fun environment when Spash comes to town in a week.
You talk about a loss and what you take from it, and one of the things that's jumped out about Wausau West is since that loss to Stevens Point, they played 5 really impressive games. I mean, I think they scored at least 6 or 7. I think 7 was the minimum they've scored. They're averaging about 9 goals a game in this 5-game win streak. It seems as though they took maybe that lesson from that Stevens Point game and have really been impressive both in the 3 games against, actually it's been now 6 games in a row, I should say. 3 games at Green Bay, Notre Dame during the holiday tournament, and then 3 games in a row last week. Boy, I mean, they just put 6 consecutive games where they have been almost unstoppable.
Yeah, I mean they figured out how to put the puck in the net. I mean it's been impressive to watch. I mean certainly led by Cooper DuPoit and that line is of Owen Pergalski and Chase Crass and their defense has been good. I mean when you look at how they've been able to put pucks in the back of the net and separate and a little bit of in bunches. I mean you look, there was a couple times in that Notre Dame game as I was listening to you, like it was a few seconds apart. Both teams, you know, there was a lot of goals when you got 13 goals in a game and 11 for West. I mean that was a little bit surprising. You know, I think right now West is averaging almost 7 goals a game for the season, and it's been impressive to watch them whip the puck around. And I felt like over the last few games, anything that you know Cooper or Owen or Chase has shot, it's going to the back of the net because they're sharing the puck and moving to the right places of the rink.
DC Everest third, and I always find them to be a very dangerous team because they tend to play solid D and goaltending. This past week they had a 3-2 double overtime loss against Onalaska. Griffin Bonnell made 36 saves in that game. That reminded me of the overtime loss they had against Marshfield. They've had overtime win. They play a lot of these kind of games and low-scoring, nip-and-tuck affairs. And again, their offense has not been able to find, I think, the consistency that maybe Coach Van Slyke would like. But at the same time, they're in every single game, and that makes them, again, with a Griffin Bonnell 4-year starter, makes them, I think, a very intriguing opponent for both West and Stevens Point coming down the stretch in the conference.
Yeah, if you look at a lot of their games are real tight, 1-2 goal games. They've had a couple games where they separated a little bit. Rapids and Mosinee, and then obviously Rhinelander, but the rest of their last 3 games have been real tight. I mean, when you look at the way that their roster is structured, they've got a lot of seniors. You know, you're coming back to the second half of your senior season, like the finality of things. So like from that perspective, when you have that many seniors, the guys recognize that the end is coming, and they fight a little bit more, and they claw a little bit more, and we probably become a little bit, you know, tighter as a team, knowing that the kids you've played with for your whole life, and this is our last chance through it. And then when you've got Griffin Bonnell between the pipes, like you're going to give yourself a chance to win. He's a very good goaltender. He's had a lot of experience at the varsity level and in big games. You know, he's played against tough opponents, and he's going to give you a chance to win anytime you line up.
The other teams, and I think let's talk about EMU. We'll talk plenty about them coming up, but they won a game on Friday at their event over South Central 5-3. Over the weekend I couldn't find a score on their Saturday game, and then I reached out to the guy who does the radio for them, and he calls up and said that apparently Rhinelander decided not to play or something along those lines, so they didn't get a game on Saturday. But so still they got the win against South Central on Saturday. Connor Zadroik had a couple of third period goals for EMU. And then last night to beat Marshfield, to go on the road, get that first conference win, score 5 goals in the third period. Jackson Pierce, I mean, he's been consistently putting the puck in the back of the net for EMU. It has been a different kind of EMU team. I'm very curious to talk to the coach because for quite a while it was a team that struggled scoring goals. I mean, they didn't have the depth in order to, I think, keep the pressure on, and they kind of were leaning on some pretty good goaltending over the years. But this year they've been able to put the puck in the back of the net much more consistently. Yeah,
I mean, when you look at their scores, I mean, 6-4, 7-4, and these are losses here. 12-6. I mean, you score 6 goals in a game. You know, they've been able to put the puck in the net more consistently than they have in years past. And I think when you look at their lineup, they've got to make sure that they find ways to put the puck to the back of the net to give themselves a chance to win. They beat South Central 5-3, getting 5 goals there, and then to beat a Marshfield team at Marshfield. It was a warm day in Marshfield there. Little different than the game, the temperature you're going to see tomorrow. But, for them to go score 5 third-period goals, that's got to be exciting. That's exciting as a coach to see your team down and come out and play an outstanding period of hockey.
And a first conference win for the coach, and I think for a lot of those guys as well. I mean, those are special nights. I mean, EMU has struggled to get conference wins, and to get one on the road at a place where Marshfield has a couple wins already. I mean, they would have been over 500 in the conference with the W. I'm thinking they're probably thinking, okay, we're going to try to be the best of the rest after Stevens Point and Wausau West. But that's I thought a very impressive win for the Blue Jacks.
Yeah, it's a great road win. I mean, plus when you come from behind and then the momentum. I mean, to score 5 goals in a period, there's a lot of excitement on the bench.
Let's talk about the Great Northern Conference because again, it's very interesting there as well. Tomahawk 6-0 in the conference, 11-3 overall. Pines 5-1 in the conference, 12-2 overall. Mosinee 4-2 in the league, 8-6 overall. Wapaka 4-3 and 8-7. Antigo 3-3, 9-5, and then Lakeland at 1-4, 4-5. Medford 1-5, 2-9-1, and then Rhinelander 0-6 and 0-13. Some significant play, and I think we talked a bit about it last week with Tyler Bars that they had their big game against Tomahawk on Thursday night, and it turned into another nip and tuck affair. It was back and forth. Mosinee took a 3-2 lead in the third period, but Tomahawk responded. And the thing that has to be in the craw of a coach and the craw of the team is you're up 3-2 at home in a game that you need to win, where if you win, it's a 3-way tie for first in the conference. Not only do you give up the lead with a shorthanded goal, you give up the game with a shorthanded goal. 2 shorthanded goals by Tomahawk in the third period. Jonah Dickens first, and then Jet Riley. And, of course, those are 2 very talented players that we've talked about. But, again, big comeback win for Tomahawk, and it does keep them in first place in the conference. And I will say, though, real quickly, Mosinee did bounce back nicely on Friday. They had a long trip down to Milwaukee Marquette. It was a back-and-forth game. In the end, Mosinee came from behind. They trailed going into the third and beat Marquette 5-4. Tyler Bars with his big high school sports show bump with a hat trick in that game. But, I mean, talk about back-to-back nights that were interesting for Mosinee, but also huge on Thursday for Tomahawk.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big emotional game for Mosinee and Tomahawk. I mean, that's a big conference rival, conference matchup, sectional final, would have had sectional final implications from the past. But, I noticed that too, that the Jonah Dickens had a shorthanded goal followed by Jet Riley's shorthanded goal. And that's a young team. When you think about the Mosinee roster and what they're made of, that's a young team mistake right there. When you're on the power play, up 1 goal, like things that you, as a coach, you're thinking, finish it. Let's find a way to get one to the back of the net here. And you just, mishandle the puck. And with those 2 players, you cannot give them opportunities like that. They're 2 very skilled players for Tomahawk, and they're going to put the puck in the net. And it's probably super disappointing, but at the same time, like if you look at the glass half full side of it for Mosinee, that's a lot of growth to get to that point against a good Tomahawk team.
And then Mosinee also added wins Monday and Tuesday. They beat Rhinelander 8-1 and then 4-1 at Wapaka last night. Tyler Bars had 2 more goals last night in that win. And wanted to ask you about that Tomahawk Rapids game actually last night. Tomahawk had Rapids come to town, and that is a sectional game for them now, and they won 5-2. And for Tomahawk, and we were just talking, I mean, we were trying to figure out who could be like number 4 in this bracket. It's still open. I mean, Tomahawk has had some tough matchups, I think, but at the same time, they're still in the mix. I think a lot of these teams in the next couple of weeks have an opportunity to move up in that bracket, don't they?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Tomahawk went to Superior on Saturday and lost 7-1 up there, which I felt was a little surprising just how wide that margin was. But when you look at the sectional, the way that sectional is going to play out, it's a battle right now for potential number 4. And I mean, I feel like the top 3 seeds are there, and I think those games will play out. But you've got the opportunity to get to that 4 seed in the next couple of weeks. Seeding meetings are 3 weeks away, so you've got 3 weeks to kind of solidify your spot.
Yeah, I mean, a team like Everest could move in there as well because, I mean, we're looking at teams like Memorial. And I want to ask you this because I was looking at Memorial and their standings in the Big Rivers. They're tied for second in the conference, but their record is very poor overall, well under 500. When you get in that room, how much does conference position matter? How much does the non-conference stuff matter? how do you look at that? Because again, I at this point, boy, you know the top 3 teams. At the same time, you don't know what the order of the top 3 teams are going to be, and then you have really a lot of teams that could be in a position to argue one way or the other to have a pretty decent seeding.
It's going to be really interesting because it'll.
And by the way,
down
real fast, so people know this. Again, you guys still get in the room. When we talk about basketball, they use the computer. You guys still actually, there's no computer at all for the hockey seedings, right?
There's not. I mean, there's ways. You can go to My Hockey Rankings and they'll spit out some computer generated, but you never know what they value in that calculation. But when you look at, you asked about Eau Claire Memorial, like in the Big Rivers Conference, I think when you look at the seeding, it's going to be a what's the strength of the conferences, and what are the next couple teams, and how have cross conference and out of conference matchups went. I think within the conference, I think it's pretty simple. Where you're at in the conference is where you're at. Especially if the head-to-heads line up, it gets a little different when a team's beating somebody, but yet they're ahead of them in the conference. So I don't that from 4 to the 13 is going to be an interesting one, because you've got, with Tomahawk only having a few sectional games, Rapids and now Superior. It'll be interesting to see how those things get seeded out and what the arguments used are. That's so I really love that the coaches still get together. I think it's super important that you as a coach get to dissect and dive into the seeding numbers and the common opponents and the spreadsheets, because that's the fun part. You get to go in and talk about your team and see what your playoff run's going to look like.
And by the way, when talking about that, I was thinking who's going to be 4. I imagine, and I haven't really delved deep into Superior. I imagine they're right there as well.
They are. They had a big win against somebody over in Minnesota in their league. So they're obviously playing much better than they did early on at the Thanksgiving tournament in Eau Claire. So they're always. I mean, as you've seen, Chad.
I know.
As a 7 seed a year ago. They were an outstanding hockey team, and it's a great program they're going to have them ready to go for the playoffs.
Pines, looks like they're getting better and better just based on the results, not having an opportunity yet to see them in person, but it just seems like as the season's gone on, they have continued to build. Again, they dominated Lakeland 5-0 on Thursday. They had a couple of big wins again over the weekend. Pines beat Hayward 8-1 on Saturday. They beat Wapaka on the road 7-3 on Monday. It looks like Pines in Division 2 is setting themselves up for a pretty good run in that bracket, with Mosinee probably being the team that would be the biggest threat in that bracket.
Yeah, I mean, Pines has done everything that they can up to this point. I mean, they're playing a really good schedule. They're playing well within their conference, and I think you're right. I think that right now that sectional probably breaks down to Mosinee and Pines in the end. And you just look at the firepower that Pines has had: 8 goals against Hayward, 7 against Wapaka, and they have the offensive firepower, and they've got some really good defensive players as well as goalie Everett Leslie back there. And they're a team that looks like they're poised for a good playoff run.
And by the way, I think a number of folks have been saying, how terrible it is that Tomahawk has gone to Division I. I imagine some people in Eagle River are more than happy that they don't have to deal with them. Not that they don't think they could beat them, but it just makes life a little bit less complicated.
Yeah, I think I don't think there's probably anyone sad in that sectional to see Tomahawk have to get bumped up, whether they agree with it or not. Right. I think that's irrelevant
because Tomahawk's been the team to beat in that bracket the last couple of years.
They have been, and they've earned it. They were successful, and for that.
And by the way, real fast, all this talk about getting new people to the state tournament because of Division 2. Well, there's going to be a new person in that bracket so everybody should be so happy. If you love this 2 tournament setup, put your hands together because you get another new team at the state tournament.
And it's been a while since Pines has been there. I think the first couple of years that they went Division 1 and Division 2, Pines was there.
Yeah,
because they had the Fondy Springs Pines matchup. Right. So I think it's not a new team to the 2 division model, but it's certainly somebody new between Mosinee, Pines, and Tomahawk.
Well,
they've been the 3.
There, actually, there, yeah.
They've been the 3 teams to make it out of that bracket.
I hope people can tell my little sarcasm, because when it comes down to the state tournament, I miss the 1 division format. I would rather have it be 8-4 than Division 2 could be happy and Division 1 could be happy, but just my little editorial point of view there.
Chad, you get that. Others of us have to keep our opinions tighter than that. But I think, the 2-division model has helped get different communities down there. The only issue on our side of it is we wanted 8 Division 1 and 4 Division 2. I don't think there's any argument there.
And by the way, it's always interesting to keep an eye on what Austin Martinson's doing in Anago, because that guy's going to be a freshman who's getting an incredible amount of shot opportunities and stopping a lot of shots. And Wapaka beat Anago on Thursday 3-1. It was a 47-18 edge, and so it was a 44 more saves for Martinson. Then on the weekend, Saturday, they went to Lakeland and won 2-1 in overtime. 46 saves for Austin Martinson as well in that game. And then they kind of were brought back to earth a little bit on Monday when they went to a Tomahawk and fell 8-0, 71-14 edge. Still 63 saves made by Austin Martinson. I did notice very late in the game, with 1:03 to go, I was looking at the scoring of it, 15:57 of the third, Anago had a penalty that's listed as abuse of officials. I wanted to ask you about that. Have you seen that listed anywhere? Have you heard it announced as abuse of officials at any point?
Not necessarily at the high school level. I think at levels above, and it usually means a player decided to give their opinion of an official and continue their verbiage, which is probably not clean. And I think it's probably the first time I've seen it at the high school level listed as abuse of officials. Mm-hmm. Usually it's unsportsmanlike conduct is the most common call for that.
Girls hockey. Wisconsin Valley Conference, Black River Falls in first place at 5-0, 9-3-1 overall. Central Wisconsin Storm, 3-1 in the conference, 9-4-1 overall. Wisconsin Valley Union, 3-3, 6-7 overall. Northern Pines, 1-3, 3-8-2 overall. Medford, 0-5, 0-11 overall. Storm we talked about this last week, they had a very challenging weekend trip going to Western Wisconsin, who is, for entertainment purposes only, the second-ranked team in the state going into last week. Friday, the Storm won at Western Wisconsin 2-1 in overtime. Madeline Kelter, the game-winning goal. Jaden Yurkovsky had a goal as well. Cammie Floor had 38 saves on 39 shots, really helping the Storm on a night where Western Wisconsin outshot them 39-20. Then they went to Gentry Academy on Saturday, fell 4-1. Jaden Yurkovsky gave the Storm a 1-0 lead after one. It was a penalty-filled game. I was looking at the numbers, 10 penalties on each side, but Gentry able to win that one. And then last night, the Storm went to Stevens Point and defeated Wisconsin Valley Union by a score of, actually, I should mention as well, they did beat Medford on the road on Monday in a makeup game, 6-2. 77 shots on net that night for the Storm, 6 different goal scorers. And then last night in a significant game that I know you went down to, Storm defeated Wisconsin Valley Union 3-1. Ava Whitmore, 2 goals. Maisie DePoit had a goal. Cammie Floor, 15 saves. Lost the shutout with 1 second to go, which is always, I'm sure, a kick to the gut for a goaltender. But generally, 4 games, 3 wins, 3 for 3 against teams from Wisconsin. A pretty good week for the Storm.
Yeah, I think so. I watched the Western Wisconsin game online as I was at the girls wrestling duels down in Stevens Point, which is a fun event. But for them to play and get an overtime victory over Western Wisconsin, I think was big for them, big for their confidence. When you looked at how they played Gentry, they're up 1-0 after the first period. Down 2-1 going into the third. I mean, just against that was a really physical game. A lot of penalties. For them to come out of there 4-1 loss after Gentry had beaten Bay Area Ice Bears the night before 6-3. So I mean, obviously Gentry Academy, good team, good program over there in the state of Minnesota. Beat 2 Wisconsin teams, but I feel like the Storm should come out of that with some confidence a little bit. I mean, Western Wisconsin was 6-5, but people felt like they're the number 2 team in the state, and that's a big win, especially as they've quote unquote fallen out of the top 6 over the previous weeks.
Headlines.
Yeah, and for them, it was some victories to get there. How they're winning right now, it's been a little bit different in every game, but I think they're starting to gel a little bit here as the back half of the season comes in.
And they got a significant game on Friday against ECA Stars. Again, I mean, it's another one of those litmus test games as we get to this part of the season. It kind of gives you a sense as you move forward where they stand with some of the other top teams in the state.
Yeah, I think so. It's a big game, big matchup. I mean, there's these two conference games back to back. When you think about their schedule, they went Thursday, Friday, Friday, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a lot of hockey to get a couple days, talking to Coach Wimmer, I think she was excited to practice today because they've not had many practices over the last week here. Real quick though, I went to the Medford game, and yes, shots 77 shots on goal, but Zalia Leonard, unbelievable goaltender for Medford. I mean,
were saying last night that she's a multi-sport athlete. And what does she do else?
She's a catcher in softball, and you could see it because she was catching most pucks thrown to her, and you could see she was going through traffic, and I felt like she was framing them once in a while when she would catch those. But just an outstanding performance by her. Reminded me a little bit of what probably Austin Martinson has to do in Anago when she knows she's going to see a lot of pucks. I mean, last night they played, I think, Black River. She did not play in net. And they lose 10-0. I mean, I think that she is such a significant impact player for them, and just an outstanding performance by her.
And real quickly, I mean, you look at catchers and goaltenders, you do see similarities. They both have to go to their knees. They both have to use their bodies to block, whether it's a softball, baseball, or a puck. I guess I'm almost a little surprised we don't hear more of that.
Well, I mean, over the years when as a coach, when you've maybe not had a goalie, or you have a gap in years where you're getting a goalie, the first place you go is the baseball team, because there's somebody who's a catcher. Whether or not he can skate, that's the difference. But the thing about Zalia is she's a good skater, and I think that's a big difference because she can move laterally. She knows how to skate and use her edges. But, I mean, there's a lot of commonalities. I mean, I think about Claire Kalmas. She was a catcher in softball when she was 9-10 years old. I was like, hey, Ange, what do you think about this? And it was so similar. She was able to transition to that goaltending position because it was very similar to catching.
Very, very cool. Hey, we're going to take a quick time out and then come back. Have our first guest. Our second guest will be at 7:06. Our student-athlete guest for this week, Wausau East Boys basketball senior Robbie and Julie. But coming up next, we'll be joined by a guy I'm sure he's very happy after a nice road trip to Marshfield last night. East-Merrill United Blue Jack head hockey coach Brian Bednarczyk. He'll be joining us coming up next as we continue on the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO.
We are the NFHS. That stands for the National Federation of State High School Associations. But really, what we stand for, together with the WIAA, are the 178,000 high school sports students in Wisconsin. And so we stand. We stand for the runners, soccer and basketball players. We stand for their coaches, administrators, and officials. We stand for the swimmers, football players, and wrestlers. We stand for the golfers, softball, and volleyball players. We stand as the national leader and advocate for high school athletics and all who participate in them and make them possible, because it is our purpose to ensure that high school students get to play, perform, and compete together. To learn more about who we are and what we stand for, visit nfhs.org.
And welcome back, Big High School Sports Show, 98.9 WXCO. Online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO. On the Civic Media app, and also on the 98.9 WXCO YouTube channel. With former Wausau West head hockey coach and current athletic director B.J. Brandt, I am Chad Holmes. And time now for our coach guest for this week from the East-Merrill United Blue Jacks, first-year head coach Brian Bednarczyk. And, Coach, thank you for coming on in.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Often when we have our guests lined up, it's like we always hope that it's going to be after a win. But there's no guarantees because I actually set it up beforehand when you had a game on Tuesday night, went on the road to Marshfield. But you earned a nice win. And I guess to start things off, a big outburst in the third period to come back and win that hockey game. To win that first conference game had to be special for you and for the entire team.
Yeah, it was really nice to get that win. They've been working hard all year, so it's really nice to see their hard work paying off. So it was really cool to see.
I mean, talk what it's been like for you. You go from, you had your playing days and you've watched a ton of hockey. What made you want to jump into the head coaching world?
I kind of always knew at some point I would want to get into coaching, and then I saw that opportunity come up with East-Merrill, and it's like a head coaching job in the Wisconsin Valley Conference. It was kind of hard to pass up, and a lot of conversations with my wife and family, making sure that was going to be the right move, and so it all worked out, and I'm happy to, be in that spot now. So,
as you looked at it when you first got the job in terms of trying to build a foundation with your program, what were the things you tried to establish first in terms of trying to build a successful high school hockey program?
Yeah, that was one of the challenges, I think, even taking the job. People were saying, like they've never had a winning season. So like I look at that as more of a challenge and something that I want to help try to turn around and help these kids get better. But I think the number one thing was I have 3 rules. It's be a good teammate, work hard, and have fun. So I kind of wanted that to be kind of the basis of what the program's going to be. It doesn't really matter results of wins and losses right away. Just working hard, having fun with your teammates, and being a good person on and off the ice. So it's kind of the foundations I've been laying.
And I think it's shown a little bit, Brian, just in your schedule right here. You look at, you're able to get, a tough overtime loss against Rapids, and then you follow that up with an overtime win over Waupaca. Talk about the ups and downs and what you've been able to find fun so far with this group.
Yeah, I think just every game I can go back and there have been points where I was like, if we wouldn't have got some penalties, or if we could have prevented a couple of those goals, like we could have won. So I think our 4-9 record is a little misleading. I think we do have a good foundation with a lot of good players, and our goalie's been playing really well, Tony. And I think it all kind of started losing that overtime game against Rapids, because I think they really thought, and I thought that was one we should have had. So that was motivation. Just getting into overtime was good, and then we won in overtime, and now I think we've won 3 of our last 4 games, which is pretty nice. So I after the Everest game, I told them I understand like we're gonna have ups and downs, we're gonna lose some games, but it's more about like the way we're losing. Like we don't want to lose without giving our best effort. So like as long as we're giving our effort, and I feel like we're playing hard, we're doing the things I'm asking, like I'll be happy with that. But after that Everest game, I really thought we needed to have a reset. So we had a team meeting, we talked about a bunch of things, and then we've been playing really good since. So it's been fun.
Sometimes losing can be a habit, and then winning can be a habit.
Yep.
When a team goes through a cycle of not winning a lot of hockey games, you need to get maybe the mindset more than anything else. And it looks as though maybe, let me ask you about last night, because again, you were down by a goal going to the third. It looks as though that maybe the mindset has changed. Was that one of the main reasons you were able to come back and win that game last night?
I think it's just about sticking to what we've been trying to get done all year, and I've been trying to teach them to play with a mindset that the game's 0-0 all the time. It doesn't matter if we're up by 10 or if we're losing by 10. We're playing like it's 0-0. We cannot let them score, and we're scoring the next goal. So I think just getting that through to them, and then seeing a puck go in, we get a goal, and you get another goal, and it kind of builds from there and snowballs. So they did a great job of just sticking with the plan and executing last night. So it was really fun to see.
What was the locker room like? I mean, that had to be fun. It's the first conference win in a while, and just a meaningful conference win against Marshfield, who has the ability to score. They've got their high end is really good, and just talk about what that meant for you personally and how fun it was for the kids.
Yeah, they were really excited, and Jackson got interviewed, and I had to do an interview too, so I didn't get in the locker room right away. But I know they were so excited, and it was fun, especially seeing Marshfield has a few conference wins, and getting that one under our belt was just a huge accomplishment for this year so far.
Kind of opens up the door because you mentioned Jackson Pierce, and but he's got about 14 goals this season. Had another good night last night. I think a hat trick against Marshfield.
Yep.
And just generally, offensively, this year the Blue Jack team seems to be more explosive offensively. It looks as though you got a number of kids can really put the puck in the back of the net, and that's really been interesting to see because I think for a number of years it's always been a little bit of a struggle to get goals for EMU. But this group, it looks like you have some pretty good offensive talent. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think we have 3 decent lines that we can run out there and just keep playing, and then we don't have to wear down our top 2 lines, and we just everyone's been contributing and playing their role and chipping in offensively, and it's been really good to see. I was really pleasantly surprised with how good some of the kids are and how hard they work and how eager they are to learn new things and what we've been doing. So it's really been really fun to kind of see them progressing and get better and better. So.
Well, obviously, talk a little bit about people don't understand sometimes when you have a co-op, you've got a lot of different variables to deal with than maybe a standalone program. Talk about some of those challenges and how you've been able to keep your team together through some of those 2 kids in different schools and different communities.
Yeah, I think right away I kind of told the kids I don't care if you go to Merrill, if you go to East, we're in this together. We're one team. When we put that jersey on, we're in the locker room. We're here together. So that really hasn't been an issue at all. There's no in-house fighting. Oh, you go to Merrill, I go to East, none of that. So that's been really good. And I guess as far as we practice Monday and Friday in Merrill, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Monday and Friday in Wausau. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is up in Merrill if we don't have games. So, that's interesting. I have to get the bus ready for East if we're going to Merrill, or Merrill if we're going down to East. So, there's a lot of logistics, and, it's been interesting on that part of it. But, yeah, just moving the equipment around so the players, it's nice. So, we have 2 locker rooms and 2 rinks, and it's kind of cool, different setups in both spots. But
how much more does it put on your plate in terms of, because part of the job is to try to get the kids come out for the sport and to build a program and make sure that they come through on a yearly basis to get the interest both at Merrill High School and at Wausau East High School, and to try to have the kids come out. I imagine that puts a lot on your plate in order to try to establish the relationships in both schools and to have the kids come out and play some hockey.
Yeah, we want Wausau kids to come play for us, and the Merrill kids obviously, but I haven't really been too much involved with trying to get the East guys to stay at East or any of that stuff. But yeah, I think the Merrill youth hockey's growing a little bit and getting better and better, so that definitely helps too. But yeah.
One of the strengths I've seen from you guys this year is when your top power play unit out there, you guys can really move the puck, and you've got that group dialed in. I mean, right now your power play is at just under 20% for the season. Talk about that and how big of a strength it is to be able to put those guys out there.
Yeah, we try to work on the power play before every game, just for at least 15 minutes or so, and just go over different scenarios that can happen. And those guys they've been playing together since they were kids, so they kind of know where each other are, and they can pass the puck around. So if we can capitalize on some power play goals and play some good defense and pop in another one here and there, that's definitely something that we're going to lean on throughout the season too. So
again, we're talking to Brian Bednarczyk, the head hockey coach at East-Merrill United, here on the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO. How different is your team now than when you first got on the ice to start practice? How much improvement have you seen from this group? Is there any particular area that's been maybe most impressive to yourself in terms of the strides they've made from the start of practice up to this point in mid-January?
Yeah, I think they've been like, we work on skating usually the first 5-10 minutes every practice, skating, stick handling, and passing. And I'm trying to do like run some systems that are like, you'd consider them Division One systems, and before we can get into that, we have to make sure we can make passes. We have to make sure we're skating, in the right area, and stick handling with our head up, and making sure where your teammates are, and going over all of that stuff before we can really get into, this is how I want our breakout to look. So from day one to now, it's been light. Like, I feel like we've made a lot of progress, and they've been really getting better and better, and it's really been fun to see and kind of be a part of. So
Real quickly, let me jump in and now to ask the second half of the question is, as we get to the final month or so of the regular season, then the start of the playoffs, what are the areas that you have to continue to make strides on to continue to move up in terms of both the conference standings and also just to be a better hockey team as we get into the month of February in the postseason?
yeah, I think just trusting each other, playing hard every night, going out there every shift, just working hard. Like, getting back on our back checks and covering guys in the D zone, just reading the play more, trying to figure out where that guy is going to go with the puck, not letting guys get sneaking backdoor, stuff like that. If we improve our defense and just get the puck deep and get to work, I think we can make some noise. So yeah, I'm just gonna try to keep working on stuff like that. So
What's been fun for you through this process? Because I know there's always challenges, and we could talk about those forever. But what's been fun? What's been a little bit surprising on the fun factor for you during this first year?
I've really enjoyed all of it. I mean, I guess you could call me kind of a hockey nerd, but I like planning our practices and going through video and watching other teams play and stuff like that. So like all of it's been fun. I love going to the rink, so it's been really fun getting to know the kids and what they like and like what kind of drills they like and how they play and what makes them tick. So like, yeah, I think getting to know the players and just trying to bring that group together and be a team has been really enjoyable for me so far.
It's a pretty young team. I mean, it doesn't have a lot of seniors on your squad. I think maybe 4 seniors, if
Yep.
I'm not mistaken. Who are the leaders on this team? Who are the kids that maybe each other lean on a little bit more in terms of leadership, in terms of setting the tone for this group? Because obviously it does look like a team that has been making strides forward, and a lot of that doesn't always come on the ice, but it can come off the ice as well. Who are the leaders on this squad?
Yeah, I think we have a pretty good group. Yeah, we only have 4 seniors, but one of them's Tony. He's been playing goalie the last 4 or 5 games and playing really well. Unfortunately, one of our captains, Liam Zadroik, has had a knee injury, so he's been out since the Marquette game. And even though he's not playing, he's around and still a leader on the team. But I mean, we rely on Jackson and Eric Grunenwald, Hunter Renkin's one of our captains. Connor Zadroik's been playing really well, and Brody Klebanow, he's one of our captains too. Those guys have been really kind of driving the bus for us and leading the way. So it's been good to see them step up. And yeah, a lot of juniors. So next year we're, I'm pretty excited. I told them like we're not on, like we don't have to win every game this year, but let's keep building. Maybe next year we can take some big strides and make some noise. So.
Well, that was my next question. I was just looking at your roster, tons of juniors. So there's got to be some excitement as you go through this 24, 25, 26 game stretch with this group, knowing that you graduate 4 and you bring back a lot from this year. Talk a little bit about that group and what they'll mean to the program going forward.
Yeah, I think, next year if we can't get it done this year, I mean, the goal is to have a winning season. I think that's very reachable, and I think, we have to take it one game at a time. But I think if we have a good summer and we keep working hard and kind of keep doing the things we've been doing, I really think that's possible, and I'd love to see that for these kids.
Has there been any big surprises in your first year? Anything that because you said you're a guy who's been around hockey. Has anything surprised you in this first year as a head hockey coach at the varsity level?
Nothing I can think of like off the top of my head, but it's been really enjoyable, and just being around some of the coaches I've played with and against, and just seeing a lot of familiar faces. It's been fun just to be in that world again, and be involved with hockey. So.
Well, Chad, you may not know this, but hockey is a really big, small world. Like Brian wasn't in the coaching world, but there weren't many times I'd go to a junior game or a Cyclones game or something like that, and I'd run into Brian. So him saying he's a hockey nerd, I totally believe that. Talk a little bit about that, Brian. What it's been like to get back into that circle and dive into everything you wanted to when you grew up playing the game, and to pass along to the next generation of hockey players.
Yeah, I think I never played pro or anything, but I played paper makers for 16 years. So when I was done with that, it was like, this is my 5th year now that I haven't played. So getting into this has it's been awesome. Like I love going to the rink, like I said before, but yeah, being able to kind of give back and share the things that I've learned throughout the years. And I have some friends that are at higher level coaching too, that have been helping me out, and just bouncing off like ideas with them and bringing that back to the team. And, it's been really enjoyable. And my main goal is just to help help develop these players and help us, have a winning program. So that's really, really my main goal.
And I got to ask you a question, because this is, again, you talk about, liking all these aspects of it. You got a game tomorrow against Stevens Point. And obviously Stevens Point has been just an incredibly talented and big program. When you sit down and you try to figure out, okay, how are we going to go about playing a team like Stevens Point? Could you maybe pull the curtain back a little bit? What is the preparation like for a team like that? Obviously now with a couple of wins in a row, you got some confidence. You have to be excited. A great opportunity for them to come into your house tomorrow night. What is the preparation for a team like Stevens Point like, for you to get your team in that mental space to go out there and challenge one of the top teams in the state?
Yeah, so like just for example, like practice today, I just try to do a lot of drills where we're shooting, we're making good passes, we're back checking, moving our feet, just getting ready, trying to stay positive. And then I lean back kind of on like my playing days when we played Spash with Everest. Mm-hmm. We beat them twice my senior year. And what we did, you have to keep them to the outside. You have to put pressure on them. You can't be scared to play them. You have to go out there with confidence. You have to just believe in yourself and your teammates. Keeping shots to the outside, clearing the front of the net. They're a good team. I can't deny that. So I just tell them to go out there. Let's have fun. Let's play as hard as we can. Like I said, 0-0 every shift. Come to the bench, win your battles. That's all you can really do. Mm-hmm. Just try your best.
BJ, anything else?
No, this has been fun. That's a great question there, Chad, and a great answer by Brian, because people don't understand like what coaches have to go through to prepare for every opponent. It doesn't matter if you're playing Marshfield last night or Stevens Point. Like every coach goes through a different preparation for a different opponent, and
nowadays there's not as much time. Games come at you so very quickly,
especially once you get this second semester style that kids are just finishing up first semester, starting second semester. Then it becomes an absolute sprint through the second week of February, and it can be good and bad. Sometimes some teams want to play a ton of games, and some coaches want to practice more to prep them. So that's really good insight there.
Let me ask you one more thing, because again, your first year, and I've talked to BJ about this. I've talked to basketball coaches, and basketball has the seeding process where it's all on the computer. But you hockey coaches get together. Are you looking forward to that discussion? I find it intriguing to have a bunch of hockey coaches get together and then talk about each other's teams, and then say, okay, well, here's the seedings for it. Is that something that you're actually looking forward to doing? Is that something, or would you rather have a computer seeding and does not have to deal with that?
I'm not real sure. I haven't been involved in that process yet, so I'm not real sure what it looks like, and it'll kind of depend on what our record is too at the end of the year. if we have any say in like moving up or whatever. But I don't know. Our conference or that sectional is a gauntlet, so it's gonna be tough either way. I think whatever team comes out of that sectional has a chance to win state. So that's.
I mean, that seeding process, Brian, just so you know, is it's a good group of coaches that I think all do their homework, and I think that's the best thing that I like for the integrity of the process. I love the coaches that do their homework and not only for their team but for their opponents, to make sure that ultimately, my biggest fear and gripe with the electronic process is you have to get a formula that matches and values the right things. And I think in the basketball world, watching them go through it here, I don't think there's been a perfect version yet. I think teams that have been head-to-head have been seated, the loser of that head-to-head matchup's been seated lower, where I feel like in the hockey world, the coaches getting together and doing their homework, I think, get it right. And I think that's the most important part of this whole process, is to value the 24-game regular season, usually around 20 to 22 games by the time you get to the seeding process, and just value the what you've done on paper.
Yeah. That makes sense. Just getting it right is probably the most important thing. So,
one person's getting it right is another person's not getting it right, though. That's also one of the fun things about it, because people look forward to that morning to find out who you get in that first round of the playoffs and see where you go and all that good stuff. So, again, congrats. It's been, I know, a good week here to get that win on Friday night and then come back and get that road win at Marshfield last night. Really nice to see the progress that you and your boys are making so far this season. Best of luck as you continue the rest of the way.
all right, thank you.
That's
Thanks
head coach.
for having me.
Yep, that's head coach Brian Bednarczyk of the East-Merrill United Blue Jacks, coming off their win last night, 6-3 at Marshfield. Coming up, we will have the top of the hour and our information update, a news update. And then coming up, we'll have our student-athlete guest. Starting off the second hour of the program, we'll be joined by Wausau East Boys basketball senior Robbie and Julie, coming up at 7:06. With BJ Brandt, I'm Chad Holmes. It is the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO.
So, how are the kids?
Well, Emily made the honor roll.
Oh, good for her.
Yeah, we're really proud of her. Tyler, on the other hand, though,
What's going on?
he's been moody lately, just feeling down and not like himself.
Oh, we've been there. Nick was struggling last spring. He was so anxious and stressed.
Really? What helped?
Well, he joined the soccer team, and ever since, he's been a lot happier. He has more energy, he's less stressed, and he's definitely in a better mood at home. It's made a huge difference.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad he's getting out of the house, he's getting some exercise, and he's off his phone for once. It's been good for his mental health.
Sounds like it's been good for your mental health, too.
Participating in Wisconsin high school sports improves students' physical and mental health. Encourage your son or daughter to get involved. This message presented by the WIAA and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
And welcome back. It is hour number 2 of the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO. online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO, on the Civic Media app, and also on YouTube at youtube.com and the 98.9 WXCO channel. With BJ Brandt, I am Chad Holmes, and it's time for our student-athlete guest for this week, as we are very happy to welcome from Wausau East High School, senior Robbie and Julie. And Robbie, thanks for coming on over, and get much closer to that microphone so everybody can hear you. But it's great to have you on board.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you having me on the show tonight.
Well, we appreciate you stopping on by. And boys basketball is very interesting this year, because last season you guys had a great run, made it all the way to the state tournament. Really, I know it got a lot of excitement over on the east side. Then a lot of guys graduated and back at it, and you've had a really fine start to this season. I want to ask you about your mindset going into this year, because you knew that you were going to be asked, I think, to take a bit of a larger role. You were obviously part of what happened last season as well. But talk a little bit about coming off the incredible high of going to state, and then knowing that, hey, we got to kind of start all over again.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely like a great experience going to state. We knew going into this year we were going to have really big expectations to kind of perform again like we did last year. We lost a lot of seniors, which was definitely a big part of our team last year. But I do think we have the talent and the athleticism, and the guys on the team this year, even though they're young, they work really hard. We have a great coaching staff, and it's just – we are struggling a little bit right now, but I think we're starting to pick up momentum, and towards the end of the year, we're definitely going to put things together. So I'm excited for the role I have to take on this year, and I think we'll be all right.
Talk about last year a little bit. What did you learn that as a junior that you're able to take through to your senior year, and just talk about what the run was like and how you're utilizing what you learned from a year ago with this group?
I think just handling adversity, that was the biggest thing for us. Last year we were a great team, so it was kind of like next man up mentality, where if it was Charlie or Jesse or Jaden, if they're struggling on the night, one of us has to step up. So going into this year, just being a leader was the biggest thing, where I can kind of pass that on to the younger guys and get them ready for when it's their turn. So
I want to kind of build on that adversity aspect, because I remember we had Coach Garrett on. Mm-hmm. There was incredible expectations last year. Yeah. I think it was sort of a state or bust kind of feel, and there were moments during the season where you had ups and downs and had to go through that. And that's also one of the great things about high school sports, that it's going to be some adversity you can build on, and then great opportunity for success. As a athlete, as a young man, going through where there is pressure, and I think there was a pressure on that Wausau East team that maybe is a little bit almost unusual at times. Did you feel it? Were you able to take something away from going through pressure situations that you're going to be able to carry not just this season, but maybe into the rest of your life?
Absolutely. Obviously, I mean, just handling that pressure was definitely a big thing, as like both for me as a player, but also as like an individual. So kind of taking that away, stepping away from basketball a little bit, it's definitely helped me grow as a man. And I mean, just like with that, like as well as a team, like we've just all grown as individuals. So handling that adversity is like a huge step like later on in life. So yeah, definitely.
What's it like? I mean, tell everybody what's it like to be a student athlete right now. I mean, basketball is your winter sport, but it's probably not the only time you pick up a basketball. What is it like for you to prepare for obviously the winter season, but kind of that year-round commitment that it takes to be a successful high school athlete?
Absolutely. I will say our coaches, I know I've mentioned them a couple times. They're super strict, and I think it's a great thing that they're strict about it, about keeping our grades up. Super important. Obviously, the classroom has to come first to an extent, but also at the same time balancing that with like getting shots up, getting in the weight room. Super big part of my routine, and I think a lot of the guys on the team this year, they do the same thing, where they're working hard in the gym and being able to balance that, whether that be AAU or just getting to the Y. It's a daily routine, so it definitely helps us later on in the future, I would say.
What areas are you better on the court this year than you were last year? You say you work at it. You take the off season and try to add to your game. Where have you taken steps forward so far this year?
I will say definitely getting to the hoop. That's like the biggest thing. I've worked on ball handling a lot, worked on the outside shot a little bit as well. So far this year, it's not really falling as much as I want it to, but I've definitely taken big steps in my game. I've worked hard this summer. Just been getting to the gym, like shooting a lot of shots, and like I said, ball handling and also strength. Big strength routine like over the summer and through the fall, and I'm trying to maintain that now as well in the season, just lifting a lot of weights. So,
Couple questions here. Number one, who do you love playing against, and one, a team that you love to get amped up and want to play your best against, and what's your favorite field house / gym to play in?
I would say I think you guys might know what I'm going to answer for this one. I'll say Wausau West. That's definitely the most fun to play against. I got some friends over there, but at the same time when we play them, it's time for business. So Wausau West, the environment there is great. I love the field house, and just like being able to battle with them. They're the crosstown rivals. It's just such a big game for me every year. So that's the game I circle on the calendar every year. So definitely Wausau West.
Again, we're talking to Robbie and Julie, the senior from Wausau East High School, our student-athlete guest this week here on the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO. Your team got off to a slow start. It was a challenging start. I mean, you had some really good opponents to start off the season, started 0-5, and then when you got to play at Wisconsin Rapids, and you won that basketball game. How important was that game in terms of sparking what has been occurring in the last number of weeks because you've been able to start to win on a more consistent basis? Talk a little bit about the challenge of that early season schedule, maybe how it either worked or made it harder, and then that win at Rapids and what that meant for your team.
Yeah, like you said, we definitely had a super tough schedule to start off the year. I think all year so far, all the teams we've played are great teams. So going into any game, it's kind of a battle. But I will say that schedule towards the start of the year, I think it really helped us. Just kind of like playing against more physical teams, older teams. It puts us at a different level of competition to where once we get to conference, we'll be able to start to compete a little bit better. So I think it was kind of planned to an extent. But at the same time, kind of transitioning towards Rapids, to get that win, it was just so huge for us. I mean, it started to spark momentum. I think a lot of the younger guys are starting to build a little bit of confidence, and I think we're starting to that helped us kind of pull together as a team a little bit and kind of get some momentum. So
you've got kind of the back half of your senior year here. You've got just under half your season under your belt already. What are you looking forward to the second half of the season for yourself and for your team?
I definitely think as a team and individually, I think we're going to start to pick up our intensity. Obviously, practices have been a little bit more intense. We've been training harder because we know that once the playoffs come around, it's do or die, and we really have to give it all. So I think that we might be seeing a couple more wins, which I'm very excited for. I think there'll be a lot of good games in our schedule, and I think as a team we're just going to get a little bit closer and just better play overall.
Let's step away from the court for a little bit. In terms of school, do you have a favorite class in school?
I would say I love Spanish. Shout out Senora Krieg. She just retired. But I would say Spanish is probably one of my favorite classes. And then also I have a relaxation techniques class. It's kind of an easier class in my really hard schedule, but it's a lot of fun. So shout out Ms. Truex as well.
Do you have because one thing we notice always is that student athletes have so much on their plate. You got to know, as you said, go to class and make sure you're up on your studies. And then, of course, you either have practices or games and a lot going on. But when you do have a chance to step away, when you want to just chill a little bit, what do you like to do?
It's kind of I don't know if it's a weird hobby, but I like to fish a lot. And obviously I lift as well. Those are kind of things that get me away from basketball and from school as well. Where I'm still able to clear my mind and kind of just be at peace in a sense.
Kind of opposites.
Yeah, right. One a little bit relaxing.
One's a little more
you're
intense
working on
than
your
the
Yes,
other
that
one.
is true. That is true, but it definitely feels great.
What does next year look like for you? I mean, you've got basically one semester left of your senior school year and your high school career. What does next year look like for you?
I think it's definitely kind of a personal turmoil that I'm at right now. I have a lot of schools that I'm talking to for basketball because I obviously want to continue my basketball and both my academics at four-year college. I'm not really sure yet where I want to go, but I'm looking to go into strategic marketing and then, like I said, basketball as well. So I guess I'm just going to play out the season and kind of see where it leads me.
Could you maybe share, from time to time we like to kind of pull the curtain back a little bit for somebody that is thinking about going to the next level and continuing to play your sport, in this case basketball. What is that like in terms of trying to make that decision? Do you hear from coaches? Do you take visits? How do you kind of compartmentalize that and not let it affect what you do here during your senior year?
Absolutely. I will say it is a lot of pressure on me. I think I've had a lot of help with like both my family. My mom has done a great job of helping me with that, and also my coaches as well. They've helped me with the recruiting process, but it also is pressure, like I said. So when you're going on these visits and stuff, you kind of have to be on your best behavior to an extent. But it's a lot of fun. Just being able to tour all these colleges, meeting a lot of nice people, and you're the guy on campus, so it feels great.
Very cool.
Strategic marketing seems like a pretty specific area of study. Mm-hmm. What is it, and why does it interest you?
Well, for me, I've taken almost all the marketing classes you can at Wausau East, and we have a great teacher there. His name's Mr. Knight. He's done a great job with that, and I like I said, I love the classes. I also know that there's a lot of opportunity in that field. My mom's in that field, and I would say it's pretty good pay. So I'd see myself going into it. I feel like I'm pretty good with people and just talking, so definitely see a future there.
As we look forward to another question that we always like to ask: are you involved in any other sports?
So I used to play baseball, and then last year I did track. I think I'm gonna be doing track again this spring. But other than that, it's basketball. It takes up a lot of my time. I played AAU in the spring, so I focused a lot on that, and obviously hitting the weight room a lot. But yeah.
What events are you involved with in the track season?
So I tried high jump. That's kind of my main focus. Just getting jumping technique and building a little bit of athleticism for college. I wouldn't say I'm the greatest, but it's definitely fun.
And looking ahead here, well, let's start Friday night. You got DC Everest, and always a fun game. East and Everest always play some really good games. Go over there. As you look at your team, what are the areas that you have to continue to get better at in order to continue to be a factor in the conference? As you said, I mean, right now you're 2-1 in the conference. You're right there with DC Everest with the same conference record. What are the areas that your team has to be better at in order to stay near the top of the conference standings?
I would say the two main ones are communication. I think that's something we struggle with at times, but that just kind of comes with age and maturity. Since we're a younger team, that's not something that comes really naturally quite yet. I think we're building on it, and I think we will get to that point eventually, but definitely communication. And then the second thing would be just kind of strength. I think a lot of the guys are, to an extent, underdeveloped, but like I said, younger team, that's kind of going to happen. But we are working hard, so with that as well, we will get there.
What else are you involved with? Are there any clubs or different activities that you're involved with at East?
Yeah, so I'm in DECA. I was an officer for 3 years with that. It was a lot of fun. I just competed at districts, and I placed going on state, which is nice. And then every once in a while, I will go to Habitat for Humanity with my mom, and we'll volunteer there. So
I'm going to share something that I've never shared on the air before. When I was in high school, I went to Everest, by the way. I don't like saying that out loud when I arrest people, but I was in DECA as well.
Yeah.
And I won a state championship in DECA. Did you know that?
I didn't, Chad. This is new.
Finance and credit division.
State champ.
So DECA's great. And it gave me a chance to toot my own horn because normally I just, I talk about things. But I actually competed. So
what's interesting, I was at districts. I was a judge there. I was in the hospitality and tourism category. So first time as a judge, it was really fun to watch kids compete because you guys are given different scenarios and you get about 20 minutes to prepare for them. And you got to sell
it's a lot
whatever
of fun.
Whatever prompt you've been given. So somebody like yourself who speaks well, I think is going to do really well there. And it was really fun to watch. Students have to quickly think on their feet and be creative in about a 20-minute window to do whatever prompt it was. So congratulations and good luck as you go forward.
I appreciate that.
I want to ask you, because we got to kind of circle back a little bit. What was it like the first time you went on the court at the Kohl Center? Because I know for kids, whatever sport it is, that dream of going down to the state tournament, and then the first time you get out there and you run out there and you have your classmates screaming, and what was that whole experience like as you first went out there for the game itself? Because I know you had a walk through or something like that.
Yep.
But when you got to the game itself and you guys pounded out of the dressing room, what was that experience like?
It was honestly just a dream come true. As a kid, that's like all you think about. You go watch the state tournaments when you're younger with friends and all that, and you're like, one day that's going to be me. But to actually be able to go through that experience and just like be able to be on the court and actually like score on the court, it's incredible. I mean, you feel like a little kid when you're running out there, but at the same time, it's just like, wow, it's hard to soak in, to be honest. But
one other quick question about state, because it's such a different environment. How difficult is it to, whether it's sight lines and shooting angles and stuff like that, and the court itself?
Yeah.
How difficult is that for a team? Because number one, there's so much going on around it, and then to add all of those different aspects to it in order to be at your best when you play in the game. How difficult is it when it's so different than any other game that you played up to that point? It
is a little bit harder. Obviously, I mean, there's so many people there. There was like tons in a great student section for our East students. It takes a lot of like breathing, I would say. I mean, that's definitely something for me. The lights were extremely bright. I mean, I know that's kind of ironic, but they were very bright, and it took a lot of like mental focus and just like just being in the moment was crazy.
A lot of high-level athletes have pregame routines, and some of them can be quirky, some of them can be normal, some of them can be all in between. What's your pregame routine as you get ready for the game on Friday against Everest?
You know, my parents kind of get mad at me for saying this, but sometimes I like to take a little like 20-minute power nap, and then I like to eat some fruit. That's definitely a pregame thing. I like to listen to music and eat some fruit while we're watching the JV game. But I try to keep it basic. Sometimes I'll do a little bit of homework before the game, get that out of the way. But, yeah, pretty basic.
What are your goals for the rest of your high school senior year? It doesn't have to be only basketball. Because, I mean, your life changes so completely when you get done with high school. What are you hoping to accomplish or soak in or just along those lines over the next 6 months?
I think just honestly trying to make as big of an impact as I can. Both on the team and in school itself, just trying to be a leader within the classroom and on the court. Having kids look up to me is definitely a big thing. Like it feels great when you hear parents like of younger kids come up to you and say that like, hey, you really made an impact on my son's life. So I feel like just being the best person I can be towards the end of the year. So.
I mean, it's fun to watch. I mean, I was able to watch a little bit of the game, and then you listen to people as they watch the game. Your East-West game. What was exciting for you? Obviously, you guys beat West the other night in front of a fun gym at Wausau East. What's so exciting about getting to play the Warriors?
Well, obviously crosstown rival, but also that night itself, it was our youth night. So having all those kids there, it meant so much to me and the team. Just being able to put on a show for them and come out with the win. I know like the kids after we won, they all came up around us and they were all giving us high fives and like jumping on us. So it felt great to make their night to an extent.
Anything else before we have our final question?
No, let's hear it, Chad.
All right. Again, it's always good for a senior who's been involved in athletics. You've had a lot of experiences, and you always deal with some younger players who come into your program as well. But for somebody who's, say, a freshman who's just starting their journey, if they're going to go through what you've kind of gone through over the last 4 years, what piece of advice would you give them based on what you've learned?
I would say soak in the moment. It goes really fast. I know a lot of people say that, but it really does. So being aware of what you're doing at the time being, it's super big. Just just so you actually get the full experience out of things. And then also keeping an open mind. So when you're working hard, you're going to face like obstacles and whatnot. So with that open mindset, you'll be able to overcome.
Fantastic. Robbie and Julie, congrats on the success you've had up to this point, both on and off the court. Best of luck as you go through the final months of your senior season, and best of luck as you make those decisions based on your future as well. But really appreciate you coming on by. Absolutely. Robbie and Julie from Wausau East. We'll come back and talk about what's going on in high school basketball coming up next as we continue here on the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO.
What's your idea of winter fun? If it's hitting the trails after a fresh snowfall and you're thinking new snowmobile, it's time to call CCU. That's Clover Belt Credit Union, the leader in financing fun. If you're thinking new four-wheel drive vehicle to get you to the downhill slopes or the cross-country trails, it's time to call CCU. That's Clover Belt Credit Union, the leader in financing fun. Quick, easy loan applications, friendly lenders, and great rates make CCU the lending leader in financing fun. If your idea of winter fun isn't in the snow, maybe hitting the highway in a new motorhome is the way to go. Just give CCU a call. Financing for motorhomes and winter getaways. When you think fun, think Clover Belt Credit Union. What are you waiting for? Life's too short and winter's too long. Call CCU for your great rate financing. Dial 715-842-5693 or apply online or from your smartphone. That's Clover Belt Credit Union. Local lenders lending local money, keeping our community strong.
Are you an enthusiastic sports fan? Want to have fun and get in on the action?
Heck, yes. That'd be awesome.
Have great attention to detail? Want to stay active?
Definitely.
Want to give back to the student athletes in your community?
Obviously, yes.
Then you'd make an excellent high school sports official. We need more officials in Wisconsin, because with no high school officials, there are no high school sports. Sign up today at highschoolofficials.com.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Wisconsin. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the WIAA and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
Big High School Sports Show, 98.9 WXCO, WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, Civic Media app, and on the 98.9 WXCO YouTube channel. Of course, after the show is done, the show will be available as a podcast on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. Just search out the Big High School Sports Show. Also, you can go to our website at WXCO.FM, civicmedia.us to be able to listen to our previous shows as well. And, of course, you can go back and on our 98.9 WXCO YouTube channel, they are in there along with everything else that we put up there as well. With BJ Brandt, I'm Chad Holmes, and again, good guest. Good to find out a first-year head hockey coach to hear about their process. To hear Robbie, very impressive as well as a student athlete.
Yeah, it's always fun, Chad. As I go through this first year as your co-host here with you, learning the ropes. It's always fun to listen to coaches talk about the process that they're going through and where their team's at, and it's obviously really fun to watch student athletes that I don't know, and then get to know them a little bit, and you realize. They're going through a lot of things that other student athletes are, but to hear their story is really fun.
Let's talk some boys high school basketball. Wisconsin Valley Conference, you got one undefeated team left in the conference. Marshfield 3-0, 10-2 overall. Everest and Stevens Point and Wausau East are all 2-1 in the conference. Everest 10-2 overall. Spash 8-3. East 3-7. Wausau West 0-3 in the conference, 5-6 overall, and Rapids 0-3 and 2-8. And after the holiday break, they returned to conference last Friday night, 3 games. Wausau West fell at Wausau East 60-54. Robbie and Julie had 26 points and 9 rebounds. Xander Klein 14 points, 8 assists. Miles Casey 13 points For East, Jackson Riley 13, Will Butala 10, Carson Thurs 9 for the Warriors. It was a game where the Warriors had a 10-point lead in the second half. Saw East come back. Karji Cooper out for Wausau West. It's a factor. I mean, you always feel like you feel bad mentioning it because it doesn't take away from what East did, but that obviously hurt the Warriors. But, I mean, a really good comeback for Wausau East in that game and a tough loss for the Warriors. I think they really wanted that one to get that first conference win.
I think so, too. I mean, when you're up 10 going into the second half, you got to feel good about what you did the first half. And, obviously disappointing finish there. But you're right, Chad. I mean, not having Karji Cooper in that lineup makes a big difference to what they can do both on both ends of the floor. And hopefully he can come back and be healthy and give them a little jolt back to the lineup when he gets healthy.
Team that's really been impressive, and I think you mentioned it to me when you came here, and I was going to mention it myself as well, as DC Everest, because they have just been really impressive recently. They have been almost an unstoppable force. They're reminding me offensively what West is doing on the ice. I mean, in terms of putting up huge offensive numbers, Everest beat Rapids 95-54. Vander Truax 21-11. Ransom Dickerson 21, Cade Felch 16 for the Evergreens. But boy, that team is just clicking, and especially if you add the aspect of only giving up 54. I mean, sometimes when you score all those points, you give up a lot of points. But when you score 95 and only give up 54 against a conference foe like Wisconsin Rapids, very impressive indeed.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at what they did in a 3-game stretch there, 4-game stretch, when you look at scored 91, scored 93, scored 100, scored 95, and when you look at that type of offensive production, I mean, you're going to put yourself an opportunity to win, because when you put that much up, it doesn't put as much pressure on the defensive side.
And then last week, a big one in the conference, Marshfield and Stevens Point both were undefeated going into the game, and Marshfield, again, finds a way, grinds out a 54-47 win on their home court against Stevens Point. Vedder McTaggart, 20, Chris Pohl and Camden Kolstad, 12 each for Marshfield. Jackson Baressa, 16, Savan Dinga, 13, Sam Kornowski, 10 for Stevens Point. The thing that jumps out is Stevens Point is always gifted athletically. I really, every time I watch them play, they have that ability. Marshfield is just a very fundamentally sound team. They always have good athletes too, but this is the kind of game. I think Stevens Point to win, they'd want it to be a little higher scoring. Marshfield's going to win those 54-47 games, and then to have Chris Pohl, one of the top players in the league and in the state, only get 12, and yet to have McTaggart come up and score 20. Again, it just shows why Marshfield just seems to be, they have that secret formula over the last number of years to win in this conference.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at, if you're holding Chris Pohl to 12 points, I mean, that's, 7 points underneath his average. I mean, and McTaggart, he was averaging 11 going into that game, and he ends up, throwing 20. I mean, that's for Stevens Point, when you game plan, that's probably exactly how their game plan went, was to keep Pohl in check. But then somebody else is going to step up for them, and it was McTaggart.
Some of the non-conference games since then, there's been no conference after that. Everest won a pair of games again, 73-51 against Adams Friendship Saturday, and Everest extended their win streak to 7 in a row, beating Chippewa Falls last night, 74-54. So again, they're dominant. You had Stevens Point bounce back. They had the game at Marshfield Friday night, then they went on the road Saturday afternoon and beat Appleton East 74-34. So again, a very solid effort for Stevens Point. Marshfield went to Eau Claire Memorial last night, won 74-53. Chris Pohl 22, Valen Ramberg 18 for Marshfield. The teams that did not do quite as well in their non-conference affairs, Wausau West last night in a game that we had right here on WXCO, fell to Roncalli 49-36. Bonduel beat East 79-49. Wisconsin Rapids lost to Eau Claire North 71-62. But I think it says right now that those three teams at the top of the conference, Marshfield, Everest, and Spash, I think they can play with other teams, especially in the big rivers. They went over there and beat them. I think they can be very competitive with some of these teams in the East. And I think the other three teams are still trying to find their way a little bit.
Yeah, I think when you look at the way that those top three teams have been able to do outside of conference, that's going to put them in a good position when it comes down to seeding for the playoffs as they start going through, because it's one group. It's one 16-team group. So
from east to west and up north.
It's and everywhere in between, it feels, with that group. But I mean, that's a big deal to get those wins, because the way the formula works, you'd like to think head-to-head means something, and those wins mean something. It doesn't always work out, but my hope is they've tweaked the formula enough to do that. For the other three teams, I think you're right. It's about finding your identity, finding how you can win games, and whether that's increasing the defensive side of the ball and being super tough to play against, and then valuing your offensive possessions and doing your best there. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out, and who really starts to make a push here this second half.
Looking ahead, it's now a little bit. It's interesting. I won't say it's good, because I don't think it's good, because I remember the time where it used to be when you got to this time of the year, you'd start to see the conference games on Friday and Tuesday, pretty much every week until the end of the year. Now, with only 6 teams in the conference, you just don't have as many conference games. So, again, we have a night of conference play coming up on Friday. Marshfield will try to stay undefeated. They travel to West, a game that we will have right here on 98.9 WXCO. You have East at Everest, a couple of 2-1 teams, and Stevens Point at Wisconsin Rapids, as Spash tries to stay close to Marshfield. That East Everest game, I think, is intriguing. I think it's still going to be a stiff test for the Lumberjacks, as Everest is playing so well. I want to see West come back and kind of reestablish that tough defensive presence. A couple of years ago, went over to Marshfield and took them to overtime, and they played tough. So I think West has to get back to that core of what they're able to do. And Rapids has been struggling just a little bit. I think that loss against East earlier on really affected them in a poor way. They're 0-3 in the conference. So any thoughts on these 3 conference games coming up on Friday night?
Well, beyond those games, what blows my mind, Chad, is we still have 7 games to go in the conference. They've only played, each team's played 3 games. So when you look at the top half, bottom half, when you look at, from the way the conference is going to shake out, you'd like to think Marshfield's, the front runner at this point, but there's still a lot of basketball to be played. Teams will get healthy, injuries will happen. I mean, it's one of those things where there's 7 conference games left, and right now, Marshfield's a front runner, but after that, they're fighting and clawing to take down the Tigers and find another spot in the standings.
Yep, and then the teams over the weekend and then early next week have some non-conference activity. I think Marshfield at Kaukauna is interesting, because that's, again, a test. We saw Marshfield go west last weekend to win, and now they go east. And, again, these teams are all in the same bracket. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's this massive bracket, and then going all the way up to Superior as well. Then you have Maryland Everest in an Old Valley rivalry. Stevens Point at Neenah. Again, one of those games that will have significance for the postseason as well. West goes to Prescott. And to be honest with you, I'm doing hockey next Tuesday, so I'm not going with the Warriors there. I have no idea where Prescott is.
Prescott's over by River Falls, Chad.
Oh, okay, so it's a long trek.
It's a long trek for them, and part of that, the scheduling that game was we wanted to get to a full schedule, and they were available, and they're a program that has had some success, and Coach Lemons is like, let's go over there.
He's got some long road trips this year.
He does.
He's going to Superior later. He got Prescott. He's gone to Prentice. I mean, going all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, well, look at Ron Colley had to come in last night, and they had a 2-hour and 35-minute bus ride back, and so that's part of the high school experience, though. Like, some of these bus trips are more important about sometimes being around each other and having fun with it, as well as obviously the game.
As a quick aside here, Monday night I was in Menasha for the Newman girls against St. Mary Catholic, and it was a rough night for the Cardinals. I get after the game packing up, and the coach comes up, and we're just talking a little bit, and she says everything is great. The girls are laughing because they're all excited because they're going to Chick-fil-A. So again, one thing that I think, and you probably notice as much as anybody, is after a game, the kids, they don't. I think the parents and the coaches take it with them a lot longer than the kids do.
Oh, I can agree with that. I can attest to that, Chad. From super exciting wins as coaches, you're on to the next opponent, already. If it's a tough loss, you're chewing on it, and you hear giggling and laughing, and kids being kids in the back, and that's important too. Like their ability to move on to the next thing is sometimes better than the adults that are coaching them. But that's a part of the process. That's a part of being a high school student athlete.
Yep, and Merriwood South boys. Marathon continues to roll. They're 7-0. They are going to lap the field, I think, before all is said and done in this conference. 3-game lead already. They're 10-0 overall. Edgar 4-3, 6-5. Then Assumption, Auburndale, and Newman all 3-4 in the conference. Assumption 5-6, Auburndale 5-7, Newman 5-8, Stratford 1-6, 3-9 overall. And let's talk a little bit about Marathon because, again, they are just playing so well. Friday, they played an Athens team at the time, had only lost one game, and they went over to that small Athens gym. That can be sometimes a tough place to play. And Marathon won 84-56. And, again, the balance that they have almost every night. Drew Wolfel, 19, Sawyer Barron, 17, Truthers, 15 for Marathon. And then last night, I'm not used to seeing this because you just don't see it because these programs have played so many big games over the last number of years. But Marathon beat Stratford 72-20 last night. But again, I think we may sound like a broken record, but there is such a great balance. It's such a well-coached team. It's such a fundamentally sound team. And they just right now are looking so incredibly good.
I mean, this is the time of year when you want to start to gel, and they're playing tough opponents within their conference. And to be able to put up the production that they have, like there's got to be some excitement with them as they look at their schedule going forward because, it as a high school coach, sometimes you know exactly who your lineup is, but they're high school kids.
Mm-hmm.
They can be the same, but it certainly seems like they're building towards a good run here the second half.
I want to talk a little bit about Newman. They played 2 one-point games in the past week. They went to Chequamegon Thursday of last week, fell 68-67. Quincy Fender 28, Griffin Penn 16. And then last night they had Edgar, second place Edgar, come into the Newman gym. Edgar had an 11-point lead midway through the second half. Newman came all the way back. They were down by 1 late. Quincy Fender had the game-winning basket with 11 seconds left. Cardinals got to stop to win it, 62-61. Fender had 32 points in that game. And I think for Coach Gress, and I know that he's got a lot more stress than he did when he crossed away from me, that was a big win for his team last night, especially after losing by 1 in the previous game.
Yeah, I mean, when you can bounce back like that, a tight loss, there's a little bit of character building when it comes to that stuff. What is your team? How are they going to respond? Because the emotion of a tight loss like that can sometimes linger, and clearly it didn't. So for them to be able to come back and bounce back is a huge, it's got to be exciting for Coach to see what's coming next for him.
And generally, just an overall umbrella statement about this conference. Most years you would have Marathon and Auburndale and Stratford and even Edgar 10-plus games over 500 by the end of the year. This year, you've got Marathon at 10-0 overall, and then Edgar 6-5. Everybody else under 500. It's partly due to the fact that the Merriwood North is better for all these crossover games, but it's a little bit different. And again, you've seen years where in hockey where some conferences are up and maybe a little bit down, but it's been so consistently where 3 and 4 teams were winning 17, 18, 19, 20 games in this conference. It's a little jarring, actually, for me to see this.
Well, but part of it could be, Chad, the conference is just more parity in the conference, and I think that can be part of it too. One stat I'm just looking at, you mentioned Edgar, and I saw they beat Abbotsford 111-86.
I've heard that Abbotsford has a strange kind of system that's one of those old loyal Marymount kind of, where it's almost as though they almost don't play defense at all.
Well, I mean, for almost 200 points to be scored in a high school game, that had to be exciting for the fans and honestly probably the players to play in a little bit.
Yep, absolutely. Some of the games coming up in the Merriwood South. Conference games coming up on Friday. The top 2 teams will meet. Edgar at Marathon. That's always a rivalry, and no matter what sport it is, Marathon could have themselves a 4-game lead in the conference if they win that one on Friday at the Marathon Gym. Assumption and Newman Catholic Cardinals will try to keep the winning ways going. Again, both teams 3 and 4. Significant because I'm pretty sure they're in the same bracket as well in Division 5. So that could be a significant game there as well. And then next week, actually, a non-conference, a game that's sort of intriguing to me is Marathon and Mosinee. That's a game that they played each other for a number of years now. Both are good programs, and I think for Marathon, as they try to, it's always interesting when we get to this point of the year where you're undefeated, you start to think about it a little bit.
You do think about it, but one of those things when you look at their schedule, they've scheduled Mosinee. Mosinee's a good team. They're doing well in the GNC, and certainly, when you're setting up your schedule, yeah, you'd love to win every game, but you want to put your kids in situations so that you know what they're going to do, how they're going to respond, and you can coach them and guide them through those situations. So that'll be an outstanding matchup on Tuesday.
Great Northern Conference on the boys' side. Mosinee and Rhinelander look like they are lining up for a couple of massive clashes to determine their conference. Mosinee 6-0, Rhinelander 5-0. Mosinee 10-2 overall, Rhinelander 9-1. Then comes Medford at 3-2 in the conference, 4-6 overall. Pines has struggled a little bit. They're now 3-3, 7-5 overall. Merrill 2-3 in the conference, 4-7 overall. Lakeland 2-4, 3-7. Antigo 1-6, 3-8. Tomahawk 0-5 and 2-9. You have Rhinelander just looking really solid. I mean, they went to Merrill and won 72-28 last Thursday. That surprised me a little bit. I know Coach Pieper does a terrific job up in Merrill. I know it's a bit of a building project, but still for Rhinelander going to the Merrill High School gym and win that one by that margin, I was very impressed with. Mosinee winning at home on Friday against Pines, 65-45. Braden Reinke seems to be scoring 20 points almost every night for Mosinee at 20 points and 14 boards. Kelson Balgord 13, Mitchell Mickley 12 for Mosinee. Then Mosinee beat Antigo Monday 82-57 and beat Tomahawk 75-20 last night. So a big week for Mosinee. Rhinelander beat Lakeland on the road last night 67-52. And also a game, and I mentioned Merrill, they had a good win last night. They were down by 11 at Antigo. That old war on 64 game between Merrill and Antigo came back and won in Antigo 50-49 as well. But in Medford last night, went to Pines, and I say Pines struggling a little bit right now. They lost at home to Medford 75-59 last night. But both Mosinee and Rhinelander looking very, very tough indeed. And as we look forward, we have coming up, I believe, let me double check this real fast. Maybe not yet. Not yet, apparently, Rhinelander and Mosinee quite yet. But those two look like they are on a collision course.
They are on a collision course, Chad, and they're going to collide on Friday.
Oh, this
They're
Friday.
going to play at Rhinelander.
I thought I saw. I can't read my own.
Mosinee
there
at
it is.
Rhinelander
Mosinee at Rhinelander, right on my
Friday.
sheet. So, again, last year, Rhinelander beat Mosinee twice to win the conference championship. You know that Mosinee does not want that to happen again, and they want to go up there and earn the win the first time around.
I mean, if you can go up to Rhinelander and get a win, that's going to be a massive momentum for Mosinee in the conference. I mean, to go up to that place and play well is hard to do. I mean, they're a community that supports their sports really well, and knowing the meaning of this game, that it's going to be a well-attended game up in Rhinelander to essentially, decide which direction the conference is going to go. Is it going to go Rhinelander's way or Mosinee's? So it should be a really good matchup.
And Mosinee is so deep, and I think that's a thing that's really helping them this season. They've got some real depth on that team. They got some real toughness on that team. Stoffel is obviously a tough kid. So, I mean, and Rhinelander's always tough. That's just the way they play. It's been that way since they were in the Valley. It really is. I mean, I really think there's going to be I don't think either team's going to fold. I think it's going to be a real tough basketball game.
So as a non-basketball guy, Chad, when you have these two teams, I always kind of like, what does the final score end up? Is it ends up super defensive? Is it something where both teams shoot the lights out and it ends up being 80-78?
Mosinee scores a lot of points often, but these games tend not to be as high scoring. And that was a key for Rhinelander last year. I think the higher the score, the better for Mosinee. Okay. I think that Rhinelander tends to play a little bit lower scoring games.
Okay.
But, I mean, it's not to say that Mosinee can't win a lower scoring game, but you look at Mosinee, when they are rolling, they can put up points in bunches. And even when Rhinelander's rolling, they don't put up quite as many as Mosinee does. So I would say that if the game's in the 70s, I like Mosinee. If it's maybe under that, then
and you're right on with that, Chad. As I look at Mosinee or Rhinelander's winning scores here, they're right around that 70 number. Most of them under that 70 number to give themselves probably they value the possession a little bit more, play good on the defensive side of the ball, and then do what they can on the offensive.
Here you go. Once in a while, I say something that actually works out if you actually look it up.
I like the stats,
and you're here looking it up and keeping me on my toes here, so that's good. Girls side, Valley, Spash 4-0, 11-3. Everest and Rapids now 3-1. Everest up to 7-5. Rapids 9-4. Marshfield and West 1-3 in the conference. East is 0-4. Everest, big win on Friday. Rapids was undefeated in the conference. It may have had the peach baskets up, but it was 30-26. Everest wins in Rapids Friday. Doesn't matter. You got to win the basketball game. And the freshman, Peyton Marshallonis, had 11 points. Alyssa Chmielewski, 10 for Everest. But massive win for DCE, and then they backed it up with a win last night against a pretty good Adams Friendship team in non-conference, 54-46. But all of a sudden, things looking, because when we saw Everest play at West, I said before the game that basically you're trying to work your way into the upper echelon of that conference. Who's going to take those steps? And I think at least right now, Everest is making a few of those steps.
Yeah, when you look at the conference right now, Spash is kind
head
of
and shoulders, right?
Yeah, they're above everyone else, and everybody's kind of fighting for that 2 spot. I mean, for Everest to come in and they seem young, they seem like they're a young group. They're relying on some younger players, and for them to get production out of the youth is probably exciting for them as they look the seasons coming after this one. But to get that win at Rapids, like you said, it's a low scoring affair, but at the same time, as a coach, sometimes I just want to have one more than the other team, and obviously they were able to do that on the road.
And West came back to beat East on Friday. That was a significant game because both teams wanted that first conference win. East had a 6-point lead fairly late in the game. West finished the game on a 13-5 run to win 50-48. And one thing for West, I think they've won 5 games this season. In games that are double-digit games, they are 0-9. They've lost by double digits all 9 of those games. In games that are single digits, they're 5-1. They find ways to win these close games.
I mean, and that's part of learning and growing, and I think part of it is you believe that you have the opportunity to win, and they were able to do that. The way that they won against East was impressive for them to come behind and essentially take a game that maybe wasn't theirs and some of the excitement, and obviously Robbie talked about it, the crosstown rival and some of the stuff that goes into that. And so that was a good win for West.
Marywood South, Stratford continues to roll. They're 8-0 in the conference, 12-1 overall. Assumption 6-1, 9-3. Marathon is really stepping up this year. Red Raiders 5-2, 9-2. Auburndale 5-3, 9-5. Edgar 4-3, 7-4. Newman 2-5, 5-9. The big games, I think, were Stratford winning in Auburndale last Thursday, 44-40. Never an easy place to win Auburndale. But then Marathon went into Auburndale Monday and won 51-42. And I think that shows the strides that Jeff Schneider's team has made. I mean, they've had a couple of tough years last 2 years, but they had a lot of young players who have grown together. Now all of a sudden they're 9-2 overall, 5-2 in the conference, and work themselves right into the mix in this league. And they have Assumption coming up next Tuesday at home. So I think Marathon is starting to make themselves a force in this conference.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, they get an opportunity to jump to that number 2 spot. I think that's a big part of where you finish in the conference. You talk about it on the boys' side and what that looked like here. I mean, you see a lot of teams 12 wins, 9 wins, 9 wins, 9 wins, 3 wins over 500.
That's what I'm used to seeing in this conference on the boys' side.
On the boys' side. So this kind of looks like that. I mean, when you look at Stratford 12-1, 6-0 in the conference, they're probably rolling, and you from probably 1 to 5, and even Newman's going to give you a game. They're going to be competitive, so you've still got to bring it to get those conference wins.
And then finally, in the GNC on the girls' side, Mosinee continues to roll in the conference, 7-0, 8-4 overall. Medford 4-1 in the league, 8-4. Rhinelander 4-2, 7-6. Tomahawk 3-3. Pines 3-5. Merrill 2-4. Lakeland 2-4. Antigo 1-6. And the thing that kind of jumped out to me was that Mosinee beat Tomahawk 68-20. Tomahawk 4th place in the conference, not at the bottom of the league. This rolled past them. Mosinee beat Pine 77-40. Mosinee is obviously testing themselves in non-conference play, but boy, when they're playing conference basketball right now, they are just rolling. They beat Anago Monday 60-23. So you see, I think there's a method, really a smart method to the way they've scheduled in terms of maybe losing some of these non-conference games. But boy, they are setting themselves up, number one, to win their conference, because that's obviously a big goal, but also number two, to be ready for some of these games when you get down the stretch into the postseason.
That's so important. The experience matters. Like when you look at any team, when they're old and have had a bunch of kids that have got logged a bunch of varsity minutes, they're going to have success at the varsity level. And you look at the way Mosinee has built their schedule, they're having success in conference because of what they're doing not in their non-conference schedule. They're putting themselves in situations that hopefully they can draw from as they continue the second half of the season.
They do host Rhinelander on Friday night, which is always one of the more interesting games on the girls' side. But it does appear to me, at least at this point, that Mosinee is the head and shoulders above everybody else in that conference.
Yeah, if they ended up winning that game, they get a 3-game lead going into the second half here, and that's a pretty commanding lead when you're in a 7-team conference.
We got about 3 or 4 minutes left, and we did not talk about what's happening this coming week in hockey, because we recapped what was happening. Let's kind of look ahead, because as we mentioned, that we got a great race going on in the Wisconsin Valley Conference and also the Great Northern Conference on the boys' side. You have on the girls' side in the Valley, the Storm trying to rally past Black River Falls. But looking ahead for the coming week in the Valley, we got conference games coming up tomorrow night. You got West at Marshfield, 6:35 right here on 98.9 WXCO. Spash at EMU, Rapids at DC Everest. Let's talk about those games real quickly in terms of the conference.
I mean, anytime you got to go on the road. So the Warriors are at Marshfield. That's a place that's been hard for us to play historically over the years.
Hard to broadcast.
It's has the best reception in the Valley, according to Chad. But it's a game that you've got to go play well at. I mean, that's the reality of it. And for the Warriors, they've been able to do that. Spash against East-Merrill, that's going to be a game that they got to manage to get through. Spash, obviously, super offensively skilled. East-Merrill progressing in the right direction, as we talked to Coach Bednarczyk tonight. And then you've got Everson Rapids, and it's probably a toss-up in terms of how things have gone. And obviously, goaltending is probably the difference there when you look at having Griff Bonnell in net and a senior net for them.
And let me ask about a non-conference game next Tuesday, West at Eau Claire North. That's a significant game, isn't it?
Big sectional game. I mean, Eau Claire North beat Eau Claire Memorial on Thursday before the Warrior Invitational started, a 2-1 game. Tight game. I think there was a late goal to make that 2-1, and that's Eau Claire North is playing well right now, and the Warriors got to go to Eau Claire North and play well in a meaningful sectional game.
And next Tuesday, the GNC tournament gets underway.
Boy, that seems early, Chad.
I have no idea who's playing in it or at this point, and usually have a hard time finding out. But
Tyler Bars didn't even know the tournament was going on.
I wish there wasn't a tournament going on. But
I agree with you. I think for this year especially, the way that conference lays out, I don't think the conference tournament does that justice. I feel like a double round robin there would give that conference a true champion.
And the Storm hosting Eau Claire area Friday. They go to Pines Monday of next week, a game we'll have here on 98.9 WXCO. Again, for the Storm, it's about block by block at this point, I think, right?
They're building along. They've got young kids that are getting experience. They're going to start to figure out the offensive end, and clearly they've got the defensive end figured out a little bit with their goaltending and getting some young defensemen some experience. But, yeah, they're building towards the second half of their conference, which is fun to talk about.
All right, so that's going to do it. We always run out of time way too quickly, but we'll be back here again next week, 6 till 8. BJ, thank you again.
Absolutely, Chad.
And thanks to our guests for joining us, and thanks for you for joining us. It's been the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO.